everybody? Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Jarrell.
And today we're going to recap this past Saturday's HBO World Championship Boxing, which was a triple header. In the first fight, we had Mauricio Herrera against Jose Benavidez Jr. We had Matt Corrball versus Andy Lee. And then in the main event, we had Tim Bradley versus Diego Chaves, however, which network wants to pronounce it, they pronounce it differently either way. We're going to start with the first fight of the card, which was Mauricio Herrera versus Jose Benavidez Jr. And in the pre-fight video, if you did not see it, we felt that the veteran savvy of Herrera would be able to overtake the young upstart in Benavidez because he had only gone like 8 rounds. He wasn't that experienced. He had been fighting lesser tier competition, but he made a very good account of himself, and to the judges he made a great account of himself. I'm not really going to get into all that scorecard stuff. I'm going to try and stick to actually what happened in the ring. Rob, on the other hand, is going to tell you how you feel. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, that was some BS. What we looked at was a guy in Benavidez who was taller, much taller, and was the power puncher against Herrera, who was the better boxer. He was more savvy. He was kind of slick, awkward, and he was going to have a higher work rate than Benavidez, which is exactly what we saw. But he doesn't have a lot of power. And if I'm not mistaken, Harold Letterman throughout the fight says they hope they don't cheat this guy because he's not a big puncher.
Harold Letterman was a fortune teller that night.
Yeah, he foresaw quite a bit. And in this fight, Mauricio Herrera always kept his hand moves, and he did a lot of good work to the body. Now, he didn't have the same impact as Benavidez when Benavidez started going to the body, because Benavidez could take it a little bit wider, punch around the elbows of Mauricio Herrera.
He got a lot more leverage on his shots as well. He was using his body. Herrera was kind of throwing arm punches every now and then,
right,
especially to the body, but he was still connecting, and they were slowing Benavidez down.
Yeah, the sheer amount of body punches that he threw, and we're not just talking, Benavidez concentrated on power punches.
Right.
Mauricio Herrera actually threw great jab to the body, which anytime you have a guy of that height, to throw him off his game, to throw him off his center, a good stiff jab to the body would do that. It would either stop them or push them back. And towards the end of the fight, while you can see Mauricio Herrera kind of stepping back and resetting a little bit after he took those punches. After he threw those punches to Herrera, Benavidez to Herrera, Benavidez started to spend a little bit more time on the ropes while Mauricio Herrera put his head in his chest and kept his hands, just kept his fist moving. Boom, boom, boom. Now, again, not heavy punches, not super heavy punches, but they're scoring, and that takes a lot out of you, especially when you're trying to rest your legs and you're laying on the ropes.
Yeah, and you're a young fighter in the biggest fight of your life. This guy won't stop coming. You're laying the leather on him. You're hitting him with the kitchen sink, your Sunday punch, and he's not going anywhere. That can wear on you mentally and physically. So you do have to give Benavidez props for continuing on, because I think I said in the pre-fight video that he would get broken down because of that, and he would probably lose it, and that would cost him the fight. He would break down mentally because of the pressure of being in there for the title with this guy who's just keep coming. He's hitting him with his best shots and he's not going anywhere. But he kept it up. His trainers, his dad, they kept him motivated the entire time. And even in his 12th round, he was still going for the knockout. And Herrera was trying to seal his win off. I think they both kind of felt the fight was,
Could go either way.
It could go either way. And they both left it all in the ring. And you got to appreciate that. It was a great fight, even though the majority of people feel that Herrera won with his work rate, his body work, and He did display some good defense. He had some great head movement going on. Like Rob said, that stab jab to the body was great. He landed a couple of good overhand rights over top of Benavidez's jab, and people felt that that was enough to get him to fight.
Maybe 117, 115.
115,
113, yeah. 115, 113, but some of those cards was like 117.
Yeah, they gave Benavidez 8-4, 9-3, and I think the other one was 7-5.
Yeah, I mean 7-5 I can see.
Yeah.
8-4, 9-3, it was not that wide by any long shot.
No, not at all.
I mean, he did land a harder punches, but I mean, if that's what you're going for versus the accumulation, I mean, I'm just not sure what they saw that night.
Yeah. Who knows? But hard luck for Mauricio Herrera. This is the second time this year. Well, in the first time, I did think Danny Garcia pulled that one out by the skin of his teeth.
But another close fight.
That didn't go his way.
Right.
So let's move on to the second fight of the night, which was Matt Korobov versus Andy Lee for the vacant WBO middleweight title that Peter Quillen vacated because of boxing politics. And in this fight, in the preview video, we predicted that Korobov would be able to use his size and be able to land enough on Lee to get a good decision. We were on the way to that, and Andy Lee's right hook told him that he had another thing coming. Go ahead, Rob.
So this one where Andy Lee would spend a lot of time with Emmanuel Stewart before he died. I mean, was it approximately 8-9 years?
Yeah, he was with him, I think, as an amateur as well.
Yeah. And he was being trained by Adam Booth for this fight, and actually since Emmanuel Stewart passed against Korobov, who had the amateur pedigree. He was an Olympic silver medalist.
No, I think that was actually his trainer. His trainer was a silver medalist.
Okay, I knew but he had a large, prosperous amateur career. The only difference was he started out kind of fast. They were moving him along, and he just never seemed to take that step up. That's what we discussed in the preview video. So this was probably his biggest step up to date against a veteran in Andy Lee. That amateur pedigree came out. He seemed to punch him. He was quicker to the punch. He seemed to time Lee well, especially over his jab. And then he pretty much won the majority of the exchanges.
Yeah. Except
the one that counted. And all you see is Andy Lee saw his opening. It's the same thing that happened in the John Jackson fight during the exchange. He lined up, saw his opening, threw that overhand right, and he actually got hit. He was punching with Korobov. He took a punch for his trouble as well, but it wasn't as hard as the right hook that he landed. Korobov took the brunt of that punishment, and Andy Lee said, "This is my chance. Time to get this guy out of here."
Yeah, he definitely smelled blood. He actually landed a left hand, I think it was in the second round, also in an exchange, which shows that he punches very well with his opponent. And in Korobov, he had a guy who had to have at least like 10 pounds on him when they got in the ring. Korobov was huge. They looked like they were in two separate weight classes come fight night. But didn't matter. Andy Lee landed the punch that counted and, jumped on him when he had the chance. He smelled blood. Korobov could not respond at all. He landed probably about 12 unanswered punches. Kenny Bayless had to step in. We got a new champ. And maybe Emmanuel's smiling down on him from the beyond. That's it for that one. Let's move on to the main event. In the main event, we had Timothy Desert Storm Bradley not fresh off, but coming off a loss to Manny Pacquiao in April against Bradley-Chaves, who was disqualified versus Brandon Rios in one of the ugliest fights we've seen this year. They came together. It was ugly at the start. Turned out to be a pretty good fight until we heard the scorecards, which once again, Harold Letterman, he called it. And it was funny because the judge who had the most questionable scorecard was his daughter, and he says, "Yeah, I scored a fight like this no matter what my daughter says."
Right.
And she goes and like gives the fight to Charles like super wide, and everyone's like, "What?" But let's talk about the action in the ring. Tim Bradley. We say, you know, he doesn't do a lot of things very spectacularly, but he does a lot of things really well. I think I'm going to change that. This guy has some excellent movement. His movement, that's the thing that he does very well. Head movement, feet movement, body movement. This man is very, very hard to hit cleanly. And the moves he does in the ring, you really don't see that except for maybe with James Toney back in the day, Andre Ward, and the fighters back in the 40s and 50s. This guy is very old school with his movement, with the way he bobs and weaves while on the inside. It's incredible. He was doing it all night against Chaves. He was able to tag him, duck under punches, duck under combos, and get out of there. He gave him the look away right hand at one point, the walk away. I mean, the movement was mesmerizing and set up some great work. He was doing excellent work to the body. He was throwing hard shots up top. And he seemed to be one step ahead of Chaves the entire night. What do you think?
Well, I mean, there was not many clean punches that Chaves was able to throw. I mean, thankfully it wasn't a dirty fight in this one, which could have been expected. There were a lot of headbutts toward the beginning of the fight. I mean, I think Bradley got the worst of him because he had hit
his left eye.
The left eye was swelling pretty quickly by the 6th round. It was on its way to being shut, and he still did a good job of not getting into any unnecessary fire, taking any unnecessary punishment, but he wasn't quite as assertive in that first half of the fight. But he was still doing enough to win rounds by a large margin because, again, there weren't too many clean hits. And he was still scoring to the body quite a bit. I mean, he may not have always landed upstairs because Chaves did have his hands, but he could land to the body and kind of throw that wide right or even a wide hook. Unfortunately, Joe Diaz was telling him, close your fist, tighten your fist, you can get more power on it. And you can see when he hit cleanly, it didn't knock Chaves out, but Chaves was, he was woken up quite a few times by those punches, which means he probably hits harder than people give him credit for, but just not that explosive, concussive, knock you out type power.
Yeah, we've talked about that plenty of times before. Bradley, just a few technical things that he could change up. One, he never puts his body behind that right hand. It's always like a winging punch with a lot of snap on it. If he could just get a little bit of hip action in that bad boy,
step down a little bit,
a little spring off that foot, might be a problem. Also, like his trainer Joel Diaz mentioned, he's got to close that fist. He's got to close that fist right before the impact, get that maximum tension in that punch. Science. He's gonna hurt some people because he's a very physically strong guy. Now Chaves, on the other hand, he had an excellent jab in this fight. He didn't use it as much as he could have, but when he did, it was very effective.
I think he landed 3 in one round. And Bradley kind of had to change his approach.
Yeah, Bradley just stepped back. It's like, I can't believe this. He just hit him with a triple jab, and it was like, he just hit me with all of those. Yes, he did hit him with all of those. That's why you need a good jab. Timothy Bradley was completely taken off guard by that. And it was snapping even in the 12th round. Chaves showed a very good motor because in the Rios fight and in the Thurman fight, he faded late. He didn't fade late in this fight. He was still in it at the end of the fight. He even took most of the late rounds because I think I gave Bradley maybe like the first 6 rounds. I think the 5th round was kind of close, or one of those 5th and 6th were kind of close. but I think I still gave it to Bradley because I liked what he was doing as far as the defense and mixing up the defense and the offense. Which is why I gave it to him.
Yeah, I gave him 5 of the first 6, and they split the last 6.
Yeah, so Chaves did very well in that fight. He made a good account of himself. I just don't think it was, more than what Bradley did. So hopefully he'll get another shot on TV. We know Bradley will because Bradley is a big name, especially in the U.S. I mean, he's been in the ring with Manny Pacquiao twice, so people know who he is. Maybe they do a rematch. I doubt it because, Bradley is a big enough name that he can just kind of move on. And then most people feel that he won. Kind of like when he beat Manny. Everyone felt that Manny won, so Manny just went ahead and did something else. And Tim sat on the shelf for like almost a year. So that's what I'm expecting to happen with this. Tim gets another good fight. Chaves gets another up-and-coming prospect to be fed to. Maybe he wins, maybe he doesn't. We'll see. I'll be watching when he comes in. What you got?
No, that's it for me.
That's it for him. That's it for me. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like this video. Share it with all your boxing friends. If you got anything you want to add, comment section below. You can hit us up on Facebook, Capital of Combat, Google Plus, same name. You can hit us up on our email, capitalcombat@gmail.com. You got any questions, you can hit us up on any of those 3 platforms, and we'll get to you in our combat mailbag. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
This is round 1, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick rhyme, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.